In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Bill's Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we have so much Bear stuff to talk about. It is not even funny. We're going to be talking about a Cubs winning streak and a White Sox losing streak. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Sure, the season isn't going on right now, but that shouldn't stop you from heading on over to icehogs.com. Get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, sign up for season tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Oh, Alex, how have you been?
I've been fantastic. It was a great weekend. We had great weather, great sports to watch, and got a cool little opportunity Saturday night. I got to join CHGO Cubs and be part of their crosstown postgame show. So that was a lot of fun. If you want to check me out on that, head on over to CHGO and check out the postgame show from Saturday night after the Cubs White Sox game. It was the first time me being on that show, and yeah, we had a good time.
That's awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. So, quick shout out to Cody, Greg, and Jared for having me on. Cody Delmendo and I go way back. Jared, I've gotten to know him. Greg Braggs Jr., gotten to know him as well. All great guys over there. So, thanks again for having me on.
Awesome. So, yeah, definitely check that out. So we have so much Bears to talk about. I don't even know where to start. I mean, we had the first game featuring our number one overall draft pick, Caleb Williams, our new, hopefully, franchise quarterback. We had the season premiere of Hard Knocks featuring the Chicago Bears, the first time the Chicago Bears have been on it. Where do you want to start?
Well, I think we got to start with Caleb Williams, right? I mean, that is the number one talking point in this city right now when it comes to sports, as not only did we see him play, but we saw him do some things that not only raised our collective eyebrows, but the national media too. When Mina Kimes is talking about it, yeah, it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, so you know, we're recording this Sunday, so less than or 24 hours ago, we had the first Bears game featuring Caleb Williams because he didn't play in the Hall of Fame game, and he played a quarter of that game, and I think the results the results on the stats line look pretty good, but I think the eyeball test tells us that we're in for something good.
Yeah, I mean, you actually had to sit down and watch and truly appreciate what Caleb Williams did in his first game as a Bear in the preseason. The pocket awareness was worthy of noting, as well as, I'll echo what a lot of people have said, a calm demeanor in the pocket because, there were times when he had some pressure on him. And I think one of his most impressive plays, outside the obvious one we'll talk about, was that little shovel pass to DeAndre Swift. The pocket was swallowing up. He shoveled it to Swift, and he got a good block downfield, and he was able to get that big gain. And not only does that make you appreciate what Caleb Williams could do in the pocket, but that's why you signed DeAndre Swift. I mean, the fact that you were able to get that ball to him and he was able to help use his shiftiness to get by some guys. And again, credit the blocking too. He got a big block as he was making that turn. But that was really impressive. And I mean, just the athleticism. The throw to Cole Kmet is the one that everybody is talking about. And go watch it in slow motion. The way his body is shifting as he's running to the side, and he's got this off balance looking throw, and yet he still throws an absolute dart. I don't think that everybody understands how insanely difficult that is to pull off.
Yeah, and so to paint that picture, so there's a boot and the edge stayed at home. So he had a clean break on Caleb Williams. Caleb started to run backwards to roll out and to give himself a little space. And then he did a pump fake and caused the defender to, react and bought himself. It wasn't it's not like the guy fell down or totally, he it just bought him a little space. And he flipped his so while he's running right and has his shoulders parallel to the sideline, he flips his hips, turns his shoulders, fires a 25-yard dart to Cole Komet, and it's 25 yards gain. You add in the however many yards back he was behind the line of scrimmage. It was a really, really nice throw.
Yeah, that was the play that everybody was talking about. And don't forget too that his first pass was a 3rd and long, and he found that dart in a tight window to DJ Moore. I mean, that right there was pretty impressive. Now you add that throw on top of it, and he was 4 for 7 passing, but he did make a pass that DJ Moore just couldn't quite hold on to. That was a pretty good pass as well. Obviously it was lower, but it wasn't interceptable, so to speak. DJ Moore just couldn't quite haul it in, but they were moving the ball downfield. Both his drives that he played, they scored points. I do wish. I mean, this is my only nitpicky thing of the offense because I thought the offense was called pretty well, and there were some things that they did really good on the edge. But I guess the one quote nitpicky thing I will say is I would have liked a play action pass on 3rd and 1 because if you remember, they ran on 3rd and 1, and I think it was Khalil Herbert who had the ball. He got swallowed up pretty easily. There is where I wanted to see a play action pass to the end zone. But you know what? It's preseason. He got his throws in, he got his reps in, so really can't complain too much.
I would want to add in one thing is one of the passes that Caleb Williams threw of his incompletes hit Cole Komet in the hands and he dropped it.
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was an easy catch and he dropped it. It was right after he made that great catch. Um, so I mean, Caleb Williams, was it a flawless game? Absolutely not. There's a whole lot of teachable things in there, like uh, um, the the missed touchdown where he had Roma Dunze in the corner of the end zone, and he just overthrew him. That's one that he would love to have back. There was the one where forced um, he forced one and it was incomplete, but then he got bailed out by the illegal contact, but that very easily could have been an interception.
Yes.
So yeah, there's definite things that he has to work on, but the as good as some of those throws were, that flip to DeAndre Swift excited me the most because you can't teach that. Like
No.
that is one of those special things that you see Aaron Rodgers do. You see Patrick Mahomes do. You see Josh Allen do. They just have this innate ability to make something happen. And he has that. Absolutely has that. And I'm not going to tell you like, I don't want to be super meatball guy right now because I can't tell you what his ceiling is or when he finally hangs up the cleats, what his all-time record is going to look like and is he going to be Hall of Fame level? I have no idea. I'm just saying is the guy has something special that you can't teach. And for the first time, I I was a nervous wreck for that first drive. Nervous wreck. And when he came out for that second drive, I wasn't nervous. It was one of the first times I've ever had, watched a Bears quarterback on a drive and not had some level of nervousness. It I was like, if something happens, then it's going to be something that makes him better going forward. Like I just didn't have the fear in me.
And
And
you know
that's
what?
special.
Those things that you pointed out, the throw that went over Dunze, the one that could have been picked off where there was a penalty, those are exactly the points where you learn. I mean, those were the mistakes where you can say, okay, you can learn from those. What you want to see from Caleb Williams as we go is with every growing pain, he's doing something good. And that's what we saw in this game. I really do like the fact that they were able, with two drives, they were really able to mix in the running game and the passing game. I feel like I know it's preseason, I know, and the Hall of Fame game barely constitutes as a preseason game, but I like the fact that Shane Waldron's system just moves vertically so well, and that when you're seeing plays to the outside, you're not just going north to south. You're shifting around a little bit, so to speak. And even on the runs that didn't get much gain, you're like, okay, I like the mixing of some of these run plays. And Buffalo's got a good run defense, so but you were still able to make some plays. So what I'm trying to say here is I like the fact that the offense, I could say, hey, maybe this can actually function. Though it is early in preseason, I get it, but you see a functioning offense, and for a Bears fan, that's a big deal.
Yeah. And again, is we're seeing the early glimpses of Caleb Williams. We're going to go through growing pains. It's just absolute, but you feel the confidence that he's not going to fall apart at those mistakes. And, so like he he threw one that could have been an interception, accepted and undercut, and that probably gets taken to the house or at least sets them up for points. Um, and he's going to have to figure out some of these timings because that's the number one thing a young quarterback struggles with is what's an open NFL window, because a open window in college football and high school football and everything under is a whole lot different than what an open window looks like in the NFL. And that's part of the reason why you don't see young quarterbacks go over the middle all the time. And we we didn't see a lot of Caleb Williams trying to go over the middle. His passes were to the sideline, which is a very standard thing you see with young quarterbacks. I think hopefully having Keenan Allen as one of the better slot receivers in the game and a big target like Rome Odunze and a big target like Cole Kmet is going to make it easier to overcome that and take the middle of the field. Because once you establish the middle of the field, that just opens everything up for you.
Yeah.
Is that opens up your offensive game plan. That opens up you as growth in your ability to play quarterback in this league. And that's the biggest thing that we saw with Jordan Love is he got that middle of the field, and his offensive coordinator made that so. He schemed things open in the medium, 20 yards down the field in the middle and had guys open. Jordan Love got comfortable with the middle, and suddenly his play exploded towards the end of the season. And once you see Caleb Williams do that, you're going to see just astronomical growth from him. And I think the rest of the division is probably going, shit. At least
Well,
their at least their fans are. At least their fans are going, man, if nothing else, this may not amount to Super Bowls or division titles, but you cannot make fun of the Bears anymore because I think they got a quarterback.
yeah, there's one other thing too I wanted to mention about Caleb Williams. Had that really nice scramble too. I think we want to talk about that as well.
Yeah. Um, and the best part about that scramble is, you know, I I want to be careful because I know Bears Twitter has taken to shitting on Justin Fields since he's been gone. And but I do want to point out a lot of times I don't think Justin Fields knew when he should and shouldn't run.
Right.
It was a when he did run, it was instinct, not understanding the offense. And um, when when Caleb did it, if you noticed, they started that play. Uh, the Buffalo Bills were showing single high safety. When the play came, they went to two high cover two shell, and a way to beat that is you're gonna have a wide open lane is your quarterback scrambles. And he saw that and went, why am I going to force anything? I can run for 12, 15 yards without being touched. And he did that. And that's the cool part. That's where you see Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is not scrambling every chance he gets,
No.
but when he does, boy, he beats your ass because and that's because he recognizes when he's just got an open lane because Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to get his clock cleaned. Justin Fields, a lot of the times when he got hit late and the league didn't correct that, but he set himself up because he put himself in opportunities where he could get hit. Aaron Rodgers was smarter than that, and he would be same thing with Pat Mahomes. They're not trying to get hit. They want to they go up. Oh, you know what? The defense, I'm going to take what they give me, and they're giving me 10 yards to run. I'm going to easily pick up this first down and break their backs by just slightly jogging to the first down. And we saw Caleb Williams do that and then make a bad slide that he still needs to work on some things from Hard Knocks, but uh, he slid, got 15 yards, and he read the defense and he saw what they were trying to do. And granted, it wasn't the craziest of masked defenses, but what they showed pre-snap and what they went to post-snap were two different things, and they didn't fool him.
No, they didn't. And I mean, it sounds cliche, but it looked like a very confident run. Like you said, he recognized exactly what was going on and took advantage of it.
Yeah, and that's what I want to see. I don't care about the numbers. I don't care about the score. Had the score been flipped and the Bears lost 33-6, I don't care. What I want to see is health, and I want to see Caleb Williams' growth. And we saw that while winning the game, and you saw where he's just learning and understanding, and that coaching staff looks to be preparing him well.
Yeah, and I mean, this is where you're gonna see the value of Shane Waldron because there's a lot of pressure on him to write this offense. And, he's an experienced coordinator, which you like to see. And what we've seen so far, I mean, I can't really complain too much. Again, it's very early, a lot can change, but again, like you're seeing kind of a functioning offense here. And I know a lot of people have pointed this out that in episode 1 of Hard Knocks, you saw Matt Eberflus working behind Caleb Williams, and people kind of went on that, and they'd rather see Shane Waldron be in that spot. But hopefully, what Shane Waldron is doing, not only orchestrating this offense, but having everything function as they should. Because what did we see over the past year or so with Justin Fields? Justin Fields is a guy who is better when he rolls out. They try to make him a pocket passer, and that clearly didn't work. Now you're going to have an offense that is going to hopefully tailor to your quarterback and to the guys you have on it. So there's so much to get right here with this offense, but it feels like optimistically there is reason to believe that it can get written.
Yeah, I liked, for the most part, I was pretty okay with the game plan. And, who knows how this reflects because nobody wants to show their hand.
No.
And as the games go further and further in the preseason, is closer to the regular season start, you'll see a little more and a little more, but you're not seeing much. And it's very vanilla. And I don't even they just this point, it's running the plays, getting the cadence down, and they did that.
Yeah,
Uh,
this is all building on hope right now because we're Bears fans and we're deluded.
yeah, but I you have to have some belief in Shane Waldron because uh, the guy's got a pretty good resume. I mean, he spent the last 3 years coaching with Pete Carroll,
Yeah, that's not nothing.
and you look at the coaches. He's coached under Belichick, and he coached under um, what's his name in with the Rams, um,
McVay?
Sean McVay. So he's got people he's coached under. He knows football. So this isn't new calling plays. So this is not like Getsy where sure Getsy had the resume of people he worked under, but he never was an offensive coordinator, never called those plays. And from what I'm hearing, there's a lot of struggles going on in with his new job in Las Vegas. So it's you've starting to feel some confidence in what Shane Waldron's trying to do. I have a big concern, and I know you have this concern because we've talked about this for months now, but it started to rear its ugly head. That offensive line is not good.
Yeah, and one guy that did play good was Tevin Jenkins, but are you confident in him being healthy?
I'm. I mean, it is a contract year, so if it's ever to be one, this would be it.
Yeah.
But he played really well. I think he was one of the highest. If you go by PFF, I think he was one of the highest scoring Bears. Um, but um,
Overall, though, it is a concern.
it is a concern. Darnell Wright played bad, and I know he didn't play very long, but Darnell Wright played bad. Um, you had your like third string in there at right guard because Nate Davis still isn't practicing, is not playing, and that's concerning. Uh, and I it was hard to see what's happening at center when you've got bad play at the guard position next to it. Uh, Braxton Jones played okay, but you just saw so much pressure coming in that it was and penalties. This was a very sloppy game on both sides.
Yeah, and with Darnell Wright, I'm going to just say optimistically for now that that's a guy that's just shaking off some rust. Preseason game one for him. We saw how good he was last year. So hopefully that's just not really a trend. That's just early preseason, just shaking off that rust. But even so, there's still a lot of concerns with it.
I will say, do you know who played really well at center? And this was, later in the game, is my boy Doug Kramer.
Illinois.
Yep, played really well. Uh, and you saw him in there for some really key run play. Like he was he was excellent against the on running plays, and in pass downs he was solid. So I'm excited. Uh, I hope he gets more of an opportunity because uh, I like having a homegrown guy that they brought in, and I think he can do it. Um, you know, just given the opportunity. But yeah, for the rest of it, Braxton was okay. Tevin was really good. Doug Kramer was really good. Um, and Darnell Wright was not so good. Jerome Carvin was not so good. Um, so it was a little bit tough.
Yeah.
Um, let's see, what else do we have? DJ Moore looked great. That getting paid did not slow that guy down. He looked fantastic.
He seems like a motivated guy, so I'm gonna hope that getting paid doesn't slow him down.
And DeAndre Carter had a rough day. uh,
Yeah,
he had that punt that he let go over his head, and and got
yeah,
and then he got absolutely demolished
yeah. That
on
was that cheap shot. That was ugly.
that was absolutely a cheap shot. It looked like a cheap shot live, and then when they played it, the replay, like that play was it wasn't even like, oh, I just had a hard time slowing down. Like that guy, the play was dead and he just creamed him. But man, poor DeAndre Carter got rocked that game.
Yes, yes, he did. That was oof, that was ugly to see. That punt though, yeah, because you could see the visible frustration from the moment it happened.
Yeah. And that punt return game is I wonder what they're ultimately going to do. I think yeah, I know Valus Jones had a drop on the kick return. I think that kick return job is his to lose. Especially now that they didn't start him or they didn't play him in that first preseason game. And the fact that they got him working with wide receivers and running backs, and he looked pretty decent as a running back.
Yeah, he had the touchdown.
Um, and the fact that he's probably their most capable kick returner, uh, I think he's safe on this roster. He's still got to be better, but I think he's going to make this roster.
It's such a roller coaster with him because it seems like every time he makes an awful play, you're like, okay, get rid of this guy. Then he makes a really nice play, and you're like, oh, okay, maybe he is valuable. And then it just kind of keeps going back and forth.
It's true, and but I think we're seeing more valuable plays than boneheaded ones, and hopefully that trend is keeps going that way because if if he makes less and less mistakes and more quality plays, then all's going to be right in the world.
Yeah, let's hope.
Let's see what else do we have on offense. We running between the tackles, not so great. Running to the outside,
Looked really
it
good.
looked really good. You saw Ian Wheeler look fantastic. Uh, you saw some good runs by DeAndre Swift. I think this running back room is going to be a tough one because Travis Homer has made this roster by special teams play, but if you can bring in a guy like Ian Wheeler, who, if he can play special teams well and is a much better runner, he's going to work his way up, and that's going to put pressure on Khalil Herbert, who did not look very good in this game.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that his time with as a Bear is limited at this point? And when I mean limited, I mean not going to be around very long.
I think he will be on the roster this year, but then he's not going to be a Chicago Bear next year.
Yeah, that
Uh,
seems fair.
um, you know, you you didn't have Roshan Johnson here, but Roshan got the start over him last week, and Roshan has more years of team control and less miles on his body. Uh, and they really seem to like Ian Wheeler, and who's making less money and has more team control. Um, and I think, and you got to figure out the fullback, whether or not you're gonna have the fullback. This it's starting to look tougher and tougher to make this roster as a running back. And my hope is that they find a rotation where they're saving the wear and tear on DeAndre Swift. I want him used more in passing downs and in routes and less on between the tackle running. I don't want him to be the bell cow back where he's just going to get beat up when you've got Khalil Herbert and Roshan Johnson and Ian Wheeler to do those. I know
Yeah, Swift just isn't that kind of back.
last year, yeah, sure, he had like what 225 carries and 1,200 yards and almost just shy of 5 yards a carry. Like he can. I just I don't want to see that. I want to see a situation like the Lions did last year, where you had Jameer Gibbs, who was your game changing speed back, and you had David Montgomery, who is your between the power or between the tackles power back that's going to get those tough yards. And I want to see those split carries. Like I don't care about stats. I want to see results, and I want to see less carries amount to higher yards per carry or higher yards per catch. Um,
Well, yeah, and when I say he's not that kind of back, I'm not saying he's incapable of doing it, but you consider what his skill set is best for him and also consider the fact that he has had some injuries in the past. I just don't think it's ideal for him to be that kind of back.
right. Um, let's see. What else on offense before we get to the defense? Um, Austin Reed, undrafted rookie quarterback, looked real good.
He's the real QB1, the real QB
We
rookie.
should we what we should have done is we should have used that number one pick and got a defensive player, and then we could have played this Austin Reed kid, and we would have had a stud defensive player and our star quarterback
Thinking ahead.
is going into the undrafted rookie market for quarterbacks that have a lot of games in college played is paying off so far for the Bears. Is they really like Tyson Bagent and Austin Reed is looking good. And these are guys that didn't get drafted, but they've played a lot of college football.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tough when you're drafting at the top of the draft for a guy that is going to be your franchise guy because you're balancing because a lot of guys will come out early. Why do they want to stay for 4 years when they can come out earlier and make that money? Is you you start balancing number of games played versus potential. And what we're seeing is having that like over 30, 35 games of experience in college playing quarterback is really helpful for your growth in the pro level. And Austin Reed played a lot of games in college, and he looked comfortable out there. And sure,
He did.
he's playing on against the third strings guys and guys that aren't going to be on the roster, but he was also playing with third string guys and guys aren't going to be in the roster. And I'm not saying he's your next starter, but if you're able to every couple of years pick up a guy that you're confident with to play 3, 4, 5 games for you in a season, that is huge because look at the backup quarterback money market.
Yeah, it's ridiculous when you think about it.
There's guys making $8, $9 million a year. That's
Yeah,
a lot of money. And
that cap space could be going to other uses.
yeah, is if you can pay a guy the league minimum and get just as competent a play,
That's a steal.
that is a steal, especially when you have a quarterback on a rookie contract that's your starter. So if your quarterback room is three guys on rookie deals, that that's huge.
Yeah, for sure.
So I want to see that progression, and I'm curious to see how this plays out because if he does play well, I want to see what the Bears do. And this is a big if, like he could go out there and shit the bed the rest of the games. But if Austin Reed plays well in camp, and I'll tell you Tuesday because I'm going to camp on Tuesday. But if he plays well in camp and he plays well the rest of these preseason games, the Bears might use 3 spots and keep Caleb Williams, Tyson Bagent, and Austin Reed, and put Brett Rippon as on the release him and then bring him back to the practice squad because I still don't think he played really well in the Hall of Fame game, but he didn't play that well yesterday. I don't think anybody's going to swoop in and try to steal him. He's 28 years old. I just don't see that. I think you can easily put him on your practice squad, and we'll go from there because you do have an extra spot because Torrey Taylor is doesn't count as a roster spot because he got that foreign player exemption.
Yeah. Who Torrey Taylor, by the way, saw a few punts from him. I
Yeah,
like him.
the Bears are just giving a little glimpse of him. It's so odd at this point when you know there's not a punting competition. The fact that they've kept Corliss Waitman, who Corliss Waitman is an NFL starting caliber punter in this league. Is he one of the top guys? No, but is he one of the 32? Is he as good as the bottom half of punters in the league? Yeah, absolutely. So the fact that the Bears have kept him around this long is uh is surprising because I think they just don't want to show their hand with what they have in Torrey Taylor.
Yeah. That one punt he had, oh, that was a beauty. When it went out of bounds, just inside the 15 or wherever it was.
Yep,
Guy's got a leg like crazy.
that's his specialty. Is just like that's the Iowa special is kicking that right in the corner, and there's no return, goes out of bounds, and there's no penalty for out of bounds in punting, and you put that right out of bounds at the inside the 10, and that's a beauty.
Yeah,
A beauty.
he
No
is a
risk.
beast.
No risk of penalties, no risk of return for touchdowns or return for flip the field. It's you pin them back.
Oi, oi, oi. That's what it makes people say.
um do you have anything else you wanted to talk about that offense?
No, I'm kind of ready to talk about the defense because I got to tell you, I was pretty impressed with how hard they played throughout the game.
Yeah, so the defense was without Montez Sweat, without Tyreek Stevenson, without Jaquan Brisker, without Kyler Gordon. They were out, you know, four starters, and they played pretty well.
Yeah, and you saw as the game went on, more and more pressure on the opposing quarterback.
Oh yeah. And first I want to say is I guess I didn't realize how big Javon Dexter is. He's a big man.
He is.
He's a real big man. And I can't wait to see him in his mid-season prime.
I have a lot of stock on him, and I think that when you pointed out just how big he is, and you think about where he's going to fit on this team, there is a lot kind of riding on him because you would ideally like to have more pass rush, even though you do have Montez Sweat. So, there's a lot on him, I think, but I think he's got the physical tools to be a dude.
Yeah, I think he does, and we're starting to see it. Um, but one guy that I think absolutely the Bears got a steal on, Austin Booker.
Yeah. He was kind of the talk of the defense yesterday.
5 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 2 tackles for losses, and 3 quarterback hurries. This
Yeah,
is a
not bad.
this is a dude that if he would have played another season or two in the NF or in the NCAA, probably is at, at least a second round pick, but probably a first round pick. He came out too soon for reasons. I don't know what they are. And the Bears got him with a fifth round pick. And kudos to Ryan Poles for recognizing not who this guy is, but who this guy is going to be. And I I I was wondering if they were going to try to stash him as a red shirt. Oh, he got an injury, had to have surgery, he's done for the season. Stash him like that. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they do with Kieran Amagaji, but uh, but the guy has worked his ass off, and he is learning from a pro's pro in Montez Sweat and taking it to heart.
It's a good dude to learn from, that's for sure.
Yeah, he played really well, and I was absolutely, just gobstopped at him.
So there was one thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to the secondary. And, we see the guys play zone, but you notice, I don't remember if it was the first drive or the second drive, but the Bills went to the red zone. They marched down to the red zone, and then when they played man to man in the red zone, they really tightened the clamps. And I thought that was worth noting because Jalen Jones, Jalen Johnson were both part of those plays, and you really saw them tighten up when they got into the red zone playing man to man.
Yeah, and Jalen Jones is a guy that I really have liked. He played really well his rookie year with the Bears in a tough situation when everybody was hurt and they were just playing a bunch of scrub nobodies, and they he held his own, and I think he's just grown and grown. And and there's some other guys like this Bears cornerback room is, I'm gonna say, from top to bottom, the 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 flat out best in the NFL.
Well, I've mentioned before that cornerbacks were kind of the area where I was pretty much the most confident in. I mean, obviously, like talent flashy wise, you have the wide receivers with DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Roma Dunze, but boy, you look at this cornerback core, and when it's headed up by a guy like Jalen Johnson, and then you have the depth that you have, it's really impressive. And if they all play to their potential, it's going to be pretty darn good.
Yeah, and there's such so much depth because you look, and Tyreek Stevenson had just grew leaps and bounds last year, and I'm excited to see what he can do this year. And uh, you've got Terrell Smith, who was another rookie last year and played exceptionally well, and Jalen Jones, who's been here a couple years, and Stroman, and one of my new favorites is Reddy Stewart. That guy he played late in the game and looked fantastic. I was like, man, this cornerback room was already so good, and the fact that you found another gem in Reddy Stewart, like, I was blown away. I was blown away, and he looks like an absolute steal for the Bears.
And
And
having that depth is important because, as good as Jalen Johnson is, you and I both know he's had some injury issues in his career. So having that really does help give you insurance.
yeah, yep, absolutely. You're going to have injuries, and it's a pass happy league. You're going to need guys, and you're going to need depth. And don't be surprised if they don't keep 7 cornerbacks, not because they think they're going to need 7, because they want to protect 7. This is
Sure.
it's a good group, and if you keep 6, you're not going to be able to sneak that guy onto the practice squad. He's going to get taken by somebody and put on the roster because you've assembled an exceptionally good class of cornerbacks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, and then the pass rush was really good. Uh, I was very happy with that defense. They struggled a little bit when they made that switch to Mitchell Trubisky, but um, again, you're playing that without 4 starters,
Yeah, true.
including arguably your most dynamic uh, game changer in Montez Sweat.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously one of the big difference makers, but all things considering, you got to really like what you saw in that game. Like I said, they played aggressive and hard until the very end.
Yep, and they that you saw the Bills kind of come down and get in the red zone at points in the game, and the Bears just didn't concede. It was a preseason game; they were not conceding. They were
No,
fighting
they
that
weren't.
one. And the fact that the Bears' opponents in the preseason are not cupcake teams, and sure, they're going to be playing their backups, and they're also playing their starters for a portion of those games. You're seeing starter versus starter against good teams.
Yeah, you are. And, I mean, devalue it as much as you want, but preseason, regular season, it was a road game and it's more challenging to go on the road. So
Yeah,
take that as you will.
I'll throw the Texans one out, even though they were a playoff team last year. They didn't play any starters, and
Well, I
so
mean that was a
that
scrimmage. That
that
was
just
that
yeah
was
that.
truly just a scrimmage.
But you have the Bills, who were a Super Bowl favorite last year and are probably a Super Bowl favorite this year. You've got next week the Bengals, who are going to be probably one of the Super Bowl favorites from the AFC, and then your final one is against the Chiefs, who have over the last several years have been the best team in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And it you measure starter versus starter, and it's not a regular season game, and it doesn't count in the standings, but when you're watching film, you're not going, well, I beat that guy's ass, but he's not going to be in the league in 3 weeks. You're looking at yourself versus starters, and you're you're taking from that. You're learning from that. You're growing from that, and the fact, just the confidence you gain by going, you know what? We played the Bills. We outplayed the Bills. And if we go and outplay the Bengals and we outplay the Chiefs, that should say a whole lot about the mindset of this team. Even if it's preseason, the fact that if you feel confident, like, hey, we went toe to toe with the Chiefs, and their starters only played a quarter or a half, probably a half. If you hang with them, it tells you if you can hang with them one half, you can hang with them two halves.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm really curious to watch this game at home next week against the Bengals. It'll be your one home game of the preseason. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of electricity in the stands with, Caleb Williams playing. So let's see what happens.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, we talked about this game. We want to talk a little bit uh, about Hard Knocks. We
Yes.
sprinkled it in there. What were your thoughts on Hard Knocks?
So, I thought overall it was an enjoyable first episode. I didn't think that there was going to be nearly as much meat to it as there will be in the coming episodes because, you're just kind of getting this off the ground. Some of the highlights that I thought were the fact that they just didn't take Caleb Williams and say, hey, look at this guy. He's going to be great. It's all going to be great. They highlighted the fact, hey, he's a rookie. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to go through it. And you had Nick Saban talking with Matt Eberflus about that very, very thing. Nick Saban, by the way, is a very, very close colleague of Matt Eberflus because, as you saw in Hard Knocks, Matt Eberflus played for Nick Saban. And it sounds like their relationship is pretty close from what I understand. So it was kind of cool seeing him there. And, I mean, it's like, okay, the rookie hazing song stuff, that's all funny, and you get Hall of Fame game footage. You got the DJ Moore extension and everything, but I think overall it was enjoyable, but you're gonna get a lot more meat in the coming episodes.
Yeah, they were really trying to establish uh, the fact that Matt Eberflus, who he is, and I think that's a tone they're going to try to set is, hey, defensive coach, but this is the tone he's setting, and they sprinkled in some of his weird nicknames and uh, some of his weird flusisms, and they showed his family, and I think they're trying to show him as a person and the growth that he's had, and that's cool because that's he's the leader of this team. He's the head coach. So, without establishing that, it's going to be tough to establish the team. Um, but I do want to see some more from some characters. Uh, I think, you know, regardless of him as a player, Tyson Bagent is a character that I think is
Yes.
funny. There's some young players and some fringe players that I want to see highlighted in these, and um, I want to see more Roma Dunze. So
I
there's
think you're going to see more Roma Dunze.
I would be shocked if we didn't. Um, he's a very soft spoken guy, so I wonder if that'll change the calculus of how much they feature him in there. But
He's
uh,
soft spoken, but if you listen to him speak, he speaks very well.
oh,
Very, very well.
absolutely, yeah, he's like every everything he says has value. It's just it's not he's not a robust speaker. He's not a voluminous speaker.
Right.
And
He's not Theo from Canada who sang in a thong.
I will tell you is I called this when they after the draft and after they signed the rookie free agents. I was like, Theo Benedette is a guy that I want to go back and find what I and pull the clip. Is I was like, this is a guy I think is going to be a project player that's going to be valuable to the Bears sometime down the road. It's going to take time with him though, and I was like, don't be surprised if he gets a mysterious injury and he's out for the season, because I don't think they want to put him on the practice squad, but they want him around. So I think this injury is going to be, oh, look at this, he's injured, and they're going to try to redshirt him and have him just spend time in the weight room, getting stronger and bigger. So next year they can start working him in with the team to build on his fundamentals as a offensive lineman. I like him. I I think he's going to be uh, a guard in this league, and I think he's going to be a starting caliber guard.
Yeah, let's hope.
Yeah, I didn't want to see his dong, but you know,
Yeah, neither did I.
it was funny though. So I'm excited to see what they have in store for week 2. Uh, it's nice having the Bears not be the laughing stock, because had they done this the last couple of years, that would have been rough.
Oh God, yeah. I even tweeted, I said, could you imagine if they did this in the Tressman era?
Oh my God! Or the last season of uh Nagy and Pace.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, that would have been ugh.
I went and I didn't have any interest in that off-season Giants Hard Knocks, but just as a lead up over the last couple days before the Bears one debuted, I went and I watched it, and I was like, this is kind of sad, because you're just watching this team be not good.
Yeah.
And like I don't care anything about the Giants, and I sort of felt pity for them, because you're like, man, this is kind of pathetic here. Like I
Yeah,
feel
I
like,
mean, I know what you mean, and I wasn't initially overly interested in it, but when I saw the clips, I'm like, huh. I didn't watch the full thing, but I really did enjoy watching some of the individual clips from it. Not because I was overly interested in the Giants, but because it had some of the operational stuff that you don't see every day, and it was kind of interesting. But I do get what you were saying.
oh, it was absolutely interesting, like the content, but the light that it showed the Giants in was kind of sad. The
Right.
like the way things happen, and man, I have no confidence in their GM. None whatsoever. I was like, oh my God, this guy just I think he I feel like he just is going, all right, let's see what happens. Kobe, and he's throwing up Hail Marys.
Yeah, right.
And his staff seems like his assistant GM seems okay, but there's a lot of yes men on that staff, and I man, that Giants probably not going to be good.
Yeah, we'll see. But you know what I really was enjoying in part of the first Bears Hard Knocks, I really did like just seeing, and we're probably going to see a lot more of it, but I really liked seeing Hallis Hall, and you realize how nice and modern they've made Hallis Hall. And yeah, you haven't seen every square inch, obviously, but you see some of the offices, the facilities, and even the barber shop, and you're like, man, it looks like a really nice facility. And what I'm hoping to see more of as we continue this series is just kind of more looks at Hallis Hall, because say what you will about Ted Phillips, and I got a lot of things to say about Ding Dong Ted, but you know what? He did a good job with fixing up Hallis Hall. I'll give him that.
Um, and totally not Bears related. Sorry, I'm just going to throw this out there. Is I think Bo Nix is going to have a nice season for a rookie.
Well, I think a lot of people have been talking about that.
I don't think his ceiling's very high, but I remember I said that quarterbacks that play a lot of college football they have a good runway towards the NFL. He had a
Hmm.
lot, and he's playing in a for a coach that is an exceptionally good coach. Um, I think you're going to see a pretty good season out of Bo Nix. Sorry, that was just I was watching clips of the game against Indianapolis.
Fair enough.
But yeah, the Hard Knocks. I was happy with that first episode, and I hope it continues to get better. There was things that I wanted to see, but it's was 6 episodes, and we've only got one under our belt, so
Because I do
hope
want to
that-
see more Caleb Williams. I want to see more DJ Moore because I think he does have a bit of an underrated personality. I want to see more Ryan Poles. And I am curious to see how much we see of Kevin Warren and this whole stadium thing, because that's a big talking point of this whole Bears organization.
oh yeah, you saw a little bit of Kevin Warren, but I think there's a whole lot
I
more
mean,
for
that,
you to
that was
see.
mainly just with the DJ Moore thing,
Yeah.
which
Uh,
felt a little staged, but whatever.
I'm sure that there's a lot staged for this.
I was just disappointed that they didn't open with Kevin Warren doing push-ups and bowing before the George Halas Trophy at the very beginning.
uh, so yeah, it'll be exciting to see episode 2 of Hard Knocks. There's one more sort of bit of Bears news that I don't know if you saw, but Nick Foles retired.
I did see that.
Uh, and so very, very odd career that he's had. And that guy didn't need to play in the NFL to be rich. Like his family owns a chain of restaurants. So that guy came from money. But he had a very unique season, and with Andy Reid, one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. Without Andy Reid, not one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And but he's got a very important Super Bowl moment, and he was a Chicago Bear.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, that Super Bowl run was quite impressive from Nick Foles after Carson Wentz went down. I mean, that was a phenomenal, phenomenal run that he had. And you know what? I'm gonna say this too. I think Nick Foles would have been better as a Bear had Matt Nagy's system not been so fucking convoluted, because we saw the frustration from Nick Foles with how this operation was going.
Oh,
We
he
saw it.
we heard the clip where he's like, "This is not working. This is just not working."
Yep.
And he knows there was, regardless of what you say about his play, the guy's very knowledgeable, and
Probably one of
he
the smarter quarterbacks we've seen.
and he knows what a good offense looks like, and he knows what a bad offense looks like. He's
Yes.
played in both, and he's played in some of the best offenses. And so the when he recognized that offense is not going, that should be a big part of his value. I mean, Matt Nagy's ego was so big that if things aren't going well, and you have a veteran quarterback that's been a Super Bowl MVP, and knows this, he knows the Andy Reid system better than Matt Nagy knows the Andy Reid system, flat out, period. I will put my life on it. And when you're Matt Nagy and you hear that, and you just get mad rather than go, "Hey, let's figure out how to make this work," that's a problem, and that says a whole lot about Matt Nagy.
Baldy Guru Egghead, as I used to call him. Hey, Nagy's got the best job now. He gets to be part of Andy Reid's staff and win Super Bowls every year.
Yeah, he gets to just sit around and watch Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes do their thing and take some credit for it.
You see him dancing at the parades, and it's just kind of funny. And it's like, that man was once a head coach.
Have you ever seen the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones?
Yes.
You know how they have a guy that doesn't play an instrument or sing, he just dances?
Yes.
That's Matt Nagy.
Yeah. now I'm picturing them performing and just a big grinning Matt Nagy taped over his face.
he's got he's got an ill-fitting suit and he's just dancing away on stage.
He's still got the visor and the play card.
Oh God. Uh, all right, should we switch this to baseball?
Sure, why not?
Uh so Cubs are playing a little bit better. I'm not. Wait, hold on. You listening? Cubs are playing a little bit better. Knocking on wood there.
Yeah. I will say those two games against the Twins that they won were pretty impressive. You saw some big swings from Isaac Paredes. You saw some pretty solid pitching. I mean, truthfully, they've been playing better as a whole since Independence Day. You're seeing a bit more consistency on the offense. You're seeing guys like Dansby Swanson hit again. You're seeing Miguel Amaya hit much better. You're seeing Cody Bellinger hit pretty well too. I think that's been kind of pushed to the side almost as something to follow, but he has been playing much better since he's been healthier again. Uh, so yeah, I mean, and the bullpen's been pitching better overall. Um, but just leading into the crosstown talk, it was look, the Cubs swept the White Sox this year, and the White Sox are having a historically bad year, but it was as close of a sweep as you can get. Three 7-6 wins and a 3-1 win. So
Three to
they
one
didn't.
win where you came back and what, the eighth?
Yeah, you had to score the game-winning runs in the top of the eighth.
Yeah. I was with my family at Millennium Park. My daughter's a cellist, and so there was a famous cellist playing, but I was on my phone trying to see between live streaming and watching the box score, like watch that game, and I was just so frustrated by it. Uh, but they eventually got found a crack in the White Sox bullpen and capitalized on it.
Yeah, and you know, we're obviously going to talk about the White Sox, but one thing that you've noticed in these crosstown games, and this is going back to the series they played at Wrigley Field too, was prior to that series finale, the White Sox hit the Cubs pitching pretty well. And they had to fend them off, basically. Um, in the final case, the Sox scored one run. Justin Steele, who wasn't the sharpest, did get through 6 innings, one run, but they had to kind of battle them hard. Uh, what I find interesting is within this series itself, the Cubs were just in this position where you had to scrape across 2 wins against this team just to have even the slightest pulse. They did. They took care of business. They won the games, but um they kind of had to scratch them out a bit. And I think that is part of a testament to how hard the Sox play the Cubs. There's always an up to ante in this series. And two, which we're going to get to the White Sox, they made the manager change. So maybe there were some different vibes going on that South Side clubhouse. But now you have to play the Guardians. And it's going to be an interesting series because the Guardians overall have been a really good team. But lately they've been scuffing a little bit. So we'll be curious to see what we see in this series against the Guardians.
Yeah, I mean the Guardians are 3-10 and 3-7 in their last 10, but they're on a 2 game winning streak. So I feel like you can't undervalue them or look past them because You can't look if you're the Cubs, you can't look past anybody.
No,
And
no, you have zero room for error.
yeah, I was watching, just kind of doing a little math here of the difference between them winning and losing yesterday when the White Sox tied it up. Uh, it was you're like, okay, if the Cubs lose this game, that that puts them in a real tough position. This is kind of a pivotal point, and yeah, they've got a lot still to do, but they've got they've got a path forward now. They've moved past Cincinnati, they've moved past Pittsburgh, um, and they're they're 3 games out of the wild card. So saying that they're going to make it, but the difference between them winning and losing yesterday against the White Sox was was whether or not that there was hope, and I think now there's at least hope, but there's still a lot of room that they've got to.
It's microscopic hope, but one thing that I said on CHGO yesterday was we don't look at it as realistic. Mathematics doesn't look at it as overly realistic, but the players aren't thinking that way clearly. I mean, they have come out and said multiple times they believe in what they're doing, so they're going to play, regardless if they're successful or not. It sounds like they at least are trying and looking like they are at least trying to play like they believe, and that's how it should be.
Yeah, and you see Arizona and San Diego playing really well, and Milwaukee is playing really well, and the Dodgers are playing really well, and the Phillies are not playing their best right now, but they might be they might be the best team in the net. So you realistically, there's probably one playoff spot, and you've got Atlanta, the Mets, the Cardinals, the Giants, the Cubs, the Pirates, and the Reds all jockeying for that one position. And
Yeah, I mean it's a dogfight for it.
and I think Pittsburgh's probably out of it. I think, um, but and Cincinnati's on life support. But so really, you've got one spot with five teams fighting for it, and the Cubs have the worst positions to go into this.
The only thing the Cubs have is a favorable schedule. That's really what they have. So if you're going to give yourself a chance, you better take advantage. That's all I'm going to say. And you were mentioning, you know, when the Sox were winning 1-0 yesterday and when it was tied going to the eighth, you're like, all right, if the Cubs lose this, this is really going to put a damper on things. But what I look at it is if you would have blown that 7-0 lead on Friday night,
Yeah,
that would have been so bad in so many ways.
yeah. I only watched until the bad inning that Tyone had. Um, you have four runs that game or that inning, and I watched like the first 3 innings, and I had something else to do, and so I was like, oh, this looks like the Cubs got this one in the bag, and then I turned it on to watch the highlights, and I was like, what the hell? It's like, man, they just eked that one out.
Yeah, and I think you have to look too at the situation of that game. Is really Tyone falling apart was a main issue there because if Tyone goes 5 or 6, only gives up a run or two, then one of those late Benintendi solo homers off a bullpen doesn't look like nearly as big of a deal. But all of a sudden, it was a 1-run game, and then Hector Neris loaded the bases. Luckily, he got that fly ball to get out of it, but I mean, they were so close to losing that game. And I wasn't watching live, I was following it because I was at a friend's house, but it really looked like the Cubs were destined to lose that game.
Um, so yeah, I'm looking at the Cubs schedule for the rest of the month here, and you've got this 3 game set in Cleveland,
It's going to be
which is
tough.
which can be real tough. Then you've got 3 at home versus uh, Toronto. And Toronto they're not a good team, but they're not a pushover team either.
you can't take them lightly. I'm going to be at one of the games, the Sunday game. My dad and I are going. Uh, but
You're not going to
yeah,
go to you're not going to go to the first game against Detroit?
no.
Oh, it is Greek Heritage Night.
I know. It's on a weeknight, and that's just kind of hard.
Did you see the hat?
I did.
Yeah, I might end up going to that because it's also Italian Heritage Night. I'm Italian, so I kind of want that hat.
Yeah. That hat looks awesome.
Uh, but you got those three at home versus Toronto, which they're very winnable, but they're also very losable.
Sure.
That's a team that is probably on par with you. Same with Detroit. Uh, probably Toronto's on par, little less than you, and Detroit might be on par, right on par with you. Um, and but then you go to Miami, and you've got to take advantage of Miami. You
Yeah,
just have
you got to win those games.
same thing with going to Pittsburgh. You've got to take advantage of Pittsburgh with now that they're scuffling.
That series concerns me. That one really does.
As long as Paul Skeens is not pitching, but and then you go like you get a long road stretch here. You got, let's see, 9 in a row on the road, but it's against Marlins, Pittsburgh, who's has played really well at points, but is scuffling, and Washington, who's not good. Is you've got to take advantage of those road games, then come back to Pittsburgh, and uh, then it's the Yankees. That's where it's all boiling down is the rest of this month, because if you're not right in the thick of things, you start that September off pretty tough with three against the Yankees, and then uh, you fly right out and you play a home game on Sunday afternoon against the Yankees, and then you play a night game on Monday in Los Angeles against the Dodgers.
Ugh, yeah.
And you still have three in Philadelphia, and then you end it with three against Cincinnati, who would beat your ass.
Yeah, I mean, they said the schedule's favorable, but when you lay it out, it's like, it's not as easy as it looks.
No, but I mean, you've got seven against Washington, three against Oakland, three against Colorado, six against Pittsburgh, three against Miami. There's a lot of teams that you should be able to beat, but there's also it's there's some bad teams in there. You're some real good teams in there, Philly,
Yes.
Yankees, and Dodgers. But um, what I'm glad about is their Cardinals are not on the schedule anymore.
Yeah, no Cardinals, no Brewers.
Yep, I think that is the most favorable thing for them. Uh, I'm holding. I'm looking here, and they they are not playing any of the teams. Excuse me. They are not playing any of the teams they need to leapfrog for the wild card for the
Well,
rest of
that's
the
the
season.
thing. They're done with the Diamondbacks, they're done with the Mets, they're done with the Giants, they're done with the
Atlanta
Padres, they're done with Atlanta,
done with Cardinals.
done with the Cardinals. Yep.
The only teams that they're playing are teams that they've already leapfrogged, like Cincinnati and Pittsburgh and Washington.
Right.
Um, so it's in one sense you're like, it's bad because those games are really important. You sweep the Mets, and that's your like a head start. But it also, if you were to lose, those games really hurt you. So you know
I don't know, man. At the end of the day, this just feels like the Matt Nagy Bears being in the hunt graphic.
Yeah, I'm gonna give that to you. I mean, the Giants are playing well. I think they're probably a better team than you. I don't think on paper St. Louis is better than you, but they've got that voodoo magic. Um,
Right.
I mean, honestly, on paper, Atlanta, should probably have it. And they
They're
may,
scuffling a bit though.
yeah, they
They're
really
very banged up.
are. I mean, I think Arizona and San Diego are going to wrap up the first two. That
Yeah.
last spot, I think the Giants are going to take it. That's my prediction.
Possible.
Yeah. But I didn't like that the fact that the Cubs really had a hard time hitting yesterday.
Yeah, I know. I mean, they were very patient in their approach against Chris Flexen, but they couldn't really square up everything. You know, they drew a lot of walks, but they also flew out a lot too, like harmless fly balls.
Yeah, especially when you had guys in scoring position. You're just like up, out to Luis Robert, up, out to Luis Robert.
Yeah, right.
Ugh. Um, but the other side of town, man, the White Sox at least broke that losing streak before starting a new one. Um, yeah, that team is really struggling, and they fired Pedro Grifol, which is not surprising.
I mean, the whole thing is just. I don't like listening to Chris Getz speak.
I don't
I
either.
I just feel like that's a man over his head right now. And he's trying and scrambling and no, not appropriate to talk about our timeline. Oh, we think things are good. Oh, we're proud of this. We're proud of that. Remember, Jerry Reinsdorf said he wanted to get better as soon as possible. And somehow Chris Getz sold him on it. And now
Yeah.
you're going through another managerial change. And it feels like they think they're saying the right things like, oh, we're going to go out and find someone that's already in uniform. But you're already kind of ruling guys out with the way you're talking. You're giving Grady Sizemore this chance to manage the rest of the year, but it sounds like one of those things where he's kind of just auditioning for himself, and then they're going to try to search. But you lay out some criteria and you hear what they're saying, and I hear a lot of rumblings that Skip Schumacher is the leading candidate for this job. And I'll tell you this, I would not be shocked if Skip Schumacher gets the job. I also don't think it's the worst hire you can make by any means.
Fair.
Like, I think if you said, we're hiring Skip Schumacher, okay, I'm not surprised. Would it be the best? Can't really say that. Would it be necessarily awful? Can't say that either. He did have some success in Miami, and he's not given a lot in Miami. I would take him heartbeats over Pedro Grifol, but I'd almost take drunk Tony La Russa, who's senile at this point, over Pedro Grifol in a dugout.
Yeah. So I mean, it was the thing that gets me is, did Pedro Grifol need to get fired from this team? And did he deserve to be fired?
Yes and yes.
Absolutely. Both things, hands down, can't argue. But it's not the most, I don't know, it just feels like your roof is caving in on a rotting out house, and you're like, you know what, this kitchen is ugly, let's take this out. You're like, the damn roof is caving in, fix the roof. Like, sure, that kitchen is ugly and the sink is leaking and the appliances don't work, but the roof is falling in. And that's what it is like with the White Sox. Is, did Pedro Grifol need to be fired and trebucheted out of Chicago? Yes, absolutely. And nobody, Mrs. Grifol is probably like, yeah, my husband is terrible, needed to get fired. And I heard his grandma, cross stitch that into his underwear. Is, you deserve to get fired today. Love you. But the fact that Jerry Reinsdorf still runs this team is, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what kind of lipstick you put on a pig. you still have a pig. Jerry Reinsdorf is an absolute buffoon running a team. Sure, he makes money. He knows how to make money, and as he's doing that. But as far as putting together a winning team and doing right by your fans and doing right by Major League Baseball, no, you're not. You're not, and you're bad at this. And you put a bad GM in place, and there's a correct order that needs to be done. And Grifol, it should have been Jerry sells the team and or steps aside completely, and Tony La Russa in order. Is Jerry whatever, either dies, sells the team, steps aside completely where he has a firewall and can't talk to the team about anything other than money. And then Tony La Russa's got to go. Then Chris Getz has to go. Then Pedro Grifol goes. Then you add talent to this team. There's an order of things, and you did an ass backwards order of getting rid of a guy that needed to be gone, but it doesn't make you any better, and it doesn't solve the underlying problems of this team.
Right. I mean, you heard the national media rip into the White Sox. I mean, when Mad Dog Russo is ripping into the White Sox and he's actually making sense, you know it's bad.
Yeah, and he might be doing it with a dumb voice, but it's like it makes sense. Like this is just an abysmal embarrassment of a team, just absolutely embarrassing.
Over the last month, you've won one game.
That's so sad. And you went on a 21 game losing streak.
Yep. And now you're back to losing 3 in a row.
You broke that 21 game losing streak by losing or winning a game against one of the 4 worst teams in baseball.
Right, you beat it against Oakland.
Yeah, who's the second worst team in the AL. And then you turn around and you started a new losing streak. You're up to 3 now. And, sure, some of them were competitive, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the game, you got to win games. And
right.
Losing is losing. Whether you lose by 1 or you lose by 100, you're losing games. And this is just not changing anything. And let's see, 235. We'll do a little math here. The White Sox are on pace for 124 losses.
Yeah, that's not good.
And that's all fun and games when it's 2 weeks into the season, but you're almost at 100 losses at this point. You have 91 losses.
And it's August 11th.
Yeah. You are not even in the Ides of August, and you have 91 losses.
You have a chance to lose 100 games before you win 30. There is a chance that happens.
In fact, mathematically, it's probably more likely. That's how sad is that?
Yeah, and I mean, hey, you kind of showed a pulse against the Cubs Friday night when you were down 7-0 and Garrett Crochet got rocked and you fought your way back and looked like at one point you were actually going to win it. You didn't quite win it, but you're like, I actually kind of see a team with a bit of a pulse. And then, they scored 1 run on Saturday night. So, I mean, listen, you got a new manager. Grady Sizemore's new at this. I don't know how different the clubhouse feels because I don't care what John Schriffen says. Oh, bullshit reporting from radio losers. I think it's very obvious and very clear that Pedro Grifol completely lost that locker room. But shills for Jerry Reinsdorf are not going to admit that.
John Schriffen's just keeps being more and more embarrassing. He started off on a rough note right at the beginning of the season. You're like, you know what? He's new and he's replacing somebody that was really good. And it's never gotten better. It's just gone worse. And now you're just like, This guy's a joke, and I don't know why Steve Stone still wants to do this.
Well, have you heard about have you seen his comments recently?
No,
Oh, you might want to. Let me pull him up. It's a little bit interesting.
because Steve Stone has to have enough money to retire, right?
He's been doing this for what, 40 plus years?
Yeah. How old is he now? Steve Stone.
He's in his 70s, I believe.
He is. He just turned 77. So yeah, he's got plenty of money to retire.
Trying to find it, but okay, so here's one thing. 670 The Score posted, will Steve Stone be back in the White Sox booth in 2025? He admitted this year is wearing on him. I don't want to do anything now, decision-wise, with the feeling of the depression that comes with your team not performing. I'll wait and see.
I mean, why would you want to come back? You're 77 years old. This the travel in, if you do NFL, I guess you have national broadcast, but uh, if you're an NFL broadcaster, you aren't for the most part doing one team. I guess if you're the radio broadcast, but
I was going to say the local radio
yeah,
broadcast are.
is you're traveling once a week, and that's not hard. Traveling once a week is not a big deal. In baseball, you're playing, at this time of the year, you're probably playing 6 days a week and traveling 2 to 4 times a week, between there and back or next city and back. It's a lot of travel. And when you're 77 years old, even if on a private plane and being a former professional athlete, it just wears on you, especially
Well,
when your team stinks.
if you have noticed, there's been a number of road series he hasn't gone to.
Yeah.
So regardless of how the White Sox are doing, you can't help but wonder how much longer he was going to be doing this.
Yeah, and he could find something else to do. I mean, hell, he could just do appearances and promotional things locally, and if he wanted to keep working and not just sit around, he doesn't have to. I don't think the White Sox are going to give him that the deal that they gave to uh Hawk Harrelson, where he could just do the home games or the road games or whatever he did.
So I have a question, and I don't mean this to ruffle any feathers with, White Sox followers. I really don't. But if he left the broadcast booth for the Sox, do you think there'd be any chance that Marquee could pluck him and have him as a studio analyst? Do you think he would want to do that?
I believe he has a multi-year contract that he signed last year. I don't know if he could.
Fair enough.
Is he can? I mean, obviously, you can't hold him to a contract if he's just like, I'm tired, I need to retire. I'm 77 years old. What can they really do? But if Jerry wanted, he could just hold him that contract and say, no, you can't. You can retire, but you can't work for the Cubs. I I wouldn't be surprised if the Cubs offered that to him. Hey, listen, you get to be on TV every day, but not have to travel, and you get to the nice studio gig. It's not as taxing as doing a full broadcast. I mean, I'm sure that would be appealing. I don't know if the I mean, it's
Because
I don't
we know how the relationship with Steve Stone and the Cubs ended, though
yeah,
noting
it
that was
wasn't the
under the old
Ricketts.
ownership.
Yeah, that
Right.
wasn't I was about to say that the Ricketts don't have the beef with him, I don't think.
Although I honestly don't know. Was Crane Kenny involved back then?
I don't know.
I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would love to see it. I think that would be great. Um, at least even part time, him coming in a few days. Uh, I like Steve Stone. I um, I was really hurt when he left the Cubs, and
That was 20 years ago.
yeah, it's been a while. I remember when it happened, and it was it sucked because you know, having Harry Carey and Steve Stone was such an iconic duo
Yes.
that you lose Harry and then you lose Steve, and you're just like, you can't, it won't last forever, but boy, it sucks to have it to have both of those go out like that, where you lose Harry, he dies, and you lose
So
Steve.
it looks like Crane Kenny wasn't there back then. Serving as president of business operations, he formerly served as chairman of the Cubs in 10 and 11. So, I mean, that was 2004 when Stone left. So I don't think that there's anything with necessarily with Crane Kenny and Steve Stone.
Yeah, and
But
all the players that any players are long gone,
yeah,
and
Kent Merker isn't around anymore.
yeah, what management is long gone. Everybody's gone.
Dusty's gone.
Yeah,
You remember like Steve Stone's like last broadcast when he was questioning and criticizing basically to Dusty's face. You remember that, right?
yeah, yep. So it is. But I would love to see him back with the Cubs. That would be so cool.
Yeah, again, I'm just throwing that idea out there. I mean, part of me for White Sox fans' sake is it's the one good thing they have right now is listening to Steve Stone. So you at least for their sake want them to have something still there.
Yeah, if he leaves, I wonder how the White Sox replace him.
Probably just with Gordon Beckham.
Uh,
Yeah, I know.
Dick.
And Gordon is just he's very dry. That's a
Yeah,
problem.
yeah. I mean, he's not stupid or anything. It's just, yeah,
No.
it's just that you need somebody carrying John Triffins, and it's not going to be Gordon Beckham.
Oh, we're not taking that. We're not taking that from the Brewers. I don't care how many L's we have.
Ugh. But yeah. So the White Sox just are bad, and if you look, we were talking about will they lose 90 games first or win 30 games first? Do you know who their next three series are against?
I know they play the Yankees, correct?
Yep. Yankees in Chicago.
Uh-huh.
Then they go to Houston for three.
Hmm.
Then they go to San Francisco for three.
It's a tough schedule.
That's a tough schedule. Then four against Detroit before they finally get to Texas, which then it's the Mets. Like your schedule is tough for the rest of the month, other than the Texas series.
Yeah, I'll say.
So you could very well get to 90 losses before you get to 30 wins, and that would be a sad record.
Yeah, it would.
I do want to point out Michael Kopech. Do you know what his ERA is since he's been traded?
Has he even given up a run?
It is 0.00.
It's Blutarski.
It is Blutarski. Do you know what Tommy Pham is batting since the trade deadline?
Do I want to know?
300 batting average with an 892 OPS.
Ew.
Do you know what Eloy is batting since the trade?
I know it's pretty good.
524 batting average with a 1.143 OPS.
Oh, dear.
So that's like, if you're the White Sox, that's what you gave up, and they that says a lot about your team. I know it's a small sample size, but just that's what you got. That's what you gave up, and that's what they're doing as soon as they leave when they're playing for good teams.
Speaking of performances, can we talk about one guy in particular on the White Sox?
Sure.
Have you seen Luis Roberts' slash line lately?
I haven't taken notice. Is it bad?
You want me to read it for you?
Sure.
This is no joke. This is his season slash line in 63 games. You ready for this?
Sure.
198, 262, .397, an OPS of 659, an OPS plus of 84.
None of those are good.
No. And he's taken.
I know yesterday against the Cubs, he is a 4 strikeout game.
Oh, yeah, he didn't get a single hit in that series, which is surprising because I thought, okay, Luis Robert is good for at least one 480-foot tank against the Cubs, but no.
And you know what's funny is I'm not looking. I bet those numbers are on par and or better than Andrew Benintendi's.
You want me to read you Andrew Benintendi's?
Yes. I bet. Okay, I'm gonna throw out a guess. The batting average is probably 25 points higher, and the on base percentage probably wash with a lower slugging and a lower OPS.
You pretty much nailed it, but I'm going to tell you the difference isn't that large. Put this in perspective. Andrew Benintendi's OPS is 629. Luis Roberts is 659. Luis Roberts' OPS plus is 84. Andrew Benintendi's is 76. It's not that different.
Oh, man.
And guess what?
Andrew Benintendi is the highest paid or highest White Sox contract ever.
Yes, but you're gonna shit your britches when you hear this. Andrew Benintendi's more homers than Luis Robert.
He's played more games.
So what? It's Andrew Benintendi. Okay, listen, I get it. There is a difference in games. I don't care. Andrew Benintendi should not be out homering a guy who's supposed to be a big superstar.
Fair. And what does Andrew Benintendi have? Like 12 home runs?
He has 13. Luis Robert has 12.
Has either one of them cracked 40 RBIs yet?
Andrew Benintendi is exactly 40. You know how many Luis Robert has?
30.
26.
Oh my God, that's bad.
26 RBI in 63 games. The guy who's supposed to be your this was a guy coming up. I'm like, this guy's going to be a top 5 player in baseball. And frankly, I still think he has the talent to be. I think if you put him on a contender right now, he looks completely checked out at this point. He's just going up there and flailing at everything.
All right, so I'm looking, and do you know how many hits Luis Robert has in the month of August?
In the month of August?
Yes.
How many?
2. And let's see, 4. He's played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games, and every game had at least 4 at bats. Many of them 5 at bats.
Wow. I don't think it's not because he isn't talented. I feel like he's mentally checked out here.
Wouldn't you be?
I mean, I saw in that 9th inning against Hector Neris on Saturday night, Hector Neris was just lollipopping lob splitters, and he was just swinging at them like he was a kid with a broom. It looked helpless. I mean, holy crap. And then you compare that to last year when he was an all-star, he posted an 857 OPS and 38 homers. So the team was terrible then, but he was an all-star. He had 38 homers. He had a slug over 540, an OPS of 857, an OPS plus of 130, and he was a silver slugger. But this season, where you might talk about trading him, hitting 198. And his strikeout rate, too, over the past month has been insane, too, from what I understand.
Yeah. I was looking at the game log here, and um,
With every passing game, Sean just going bleh, bleh, bleh.
uh,
Last 7 days. Last 7 days. 2 hits and 10 strikeouts. Last 14 days. 6 hits, 18 strikeouts. Last 28 days, so pretty much a month. 13 hits, 40 strikeouts.
that's not a good ratio.
No, no. Over his last year, 65 days, over his last 96 games, he's slashing 211, a 267 OBP, an okay slugging of 419, but an OPS of 687.
He's only played 63 games this year, and he is got 97 strikeouts.
Yeah, not good.
But his home run to hit ratio is pretty darn good. It's 1 out of every 4 hits is a home run. There's just not a lot of hits.
Right. Cool. Boy, his numbers on the road this year. 177, 239 OBP. 239 OBP.
Not good. Luis Robert, what is his F4 this year? It's not good, I can tell you that much.
I bet the defense helps him out a little bit, but
He is a 0.5 war F4 this year.
okay. I wonder what his B war is. You said 0.5.
Yes.
His B war is 0.4, so it's pretty much they're.
Let's see what Andrew Chicken Tendies is.
Andrew Chicken Tendy.
Andrew Benatendi.
Did somebody say that, or did you just make that up on your own?
I literally just came up with that just now.
That's good. That's really good. Andrew Chicken Tendy. Burger?
He is in 2024. He's a negative 1.0 F4.
Yuck.
That's not good. That is not a good stat.
No, 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 it's not.
When two of your highest paid players on your team are a combined negative 1/2 WAR.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh God.
It's like all you can do is cackle at this point. It's insane. It defies logic. It doesn't feel real.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It's just it's just a joke at this point. And like I I would love to see what their TV viewership numbers are and how much it's plummeted since opening day.
Well, you had the big crowds for the Crosstown series. I just wonder what those crowds are going to look like the rest of the way.
I mean, the three game home series against the Yankees, there's going to be good attendance, but there's going to be so many Yankee fans there. I'm trying to I have a good friend of mine that lives in Cleveland, so I don't see him very often. Um, he's a diehard Yankees fan because he's from like Northeast Pennsylvania, where you know it's like not far from it's like that weird no man's land between Pennsylvania or Philadelphia and New York, and he grew up a Yankees fan. So I was like, you should just come into town. You'll get tickets for cheap. I'm like, I'll come down and hang out. So trying to convince him.
Oh, fair enough. You get some good food.
Yeah, like he he came in last year for a couple games at guaranteed rate, um, and then last year he also came in because the Yankees were playing in Milwaukee, and he came. They drove from Cleveland, and they were like, "Oh, you know what? We'll want to catch a Cubs game." So we caught a Cubs game the day before, and he's like, "Oh, I'll pick up tickets and He's like, I'll just let you know how much it is. I'm like, sure, no problem. Man, tell me we didn't get like third row behind the visiting dugout. I'm like, I don't normally sit here. These are not the seats I normally get here. He's like, well, when you're driving out and you go into a baseball game, he's like, you go all out. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. All right. That's fair. I won't counter argue that.
Now, was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Nope. I think I've said my piece.
Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with friends, how we grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com, or ShyFanPat2 for Alex on Twitter/X, or AlexanderJPatCreative.com for all the cool stuff that Alex does. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. Until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her, you can have her, she's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like Denver New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears!
Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.